And despite the rancour within the royal family, Esther, we're starting to see this increasing stream of reports about Harry wanting to come home. Is there anything really in this? And if so, what's the block?
So apparently Harry is one half of the Sussex team that's actually willing to reconcile with the royal family, which is understandable. It is his family. Apparently Meghan wants nothing to do with it. She's been quoted as saying that she doesn't want to take part in the soap opera, which again is strange because being a part of that soap opera and media circus is how they basically funded their lives for the last 3 years. But that's neither here nor there. But apparently Prince Harry is not bothered about receiving an apology, which is strange because I don't understand why he thinks he deserves one. But he just wants to reconcile with the family. At the end of the day, I've always made the point that this sort of rift between the Sussexes and the royal family is bigger than them. We know that King Charles only has 5 grandchildren and he's basically estranged from 2 of them. This man is in his mid-70s, and we know that, you know, the older one gets in life, the more you think about your family and what you're leaving behind. It's a shame that he only has a close relationship with 3 of his grandchildren, which is William's kids. And so I suspect that it's dawning on both of them that it's probably time to try and heal this rift between the Sussexes and the royal family to actually give, you know, Archie and Lilibet the opportunity to get to know their cousins and members of their extended family. I still find it strange that Meghan and Harry insisted on giving their children the prince and princess titles, even though they've made it very clear that they want very little to do with the royal family. But it's clear that it would probably be in both of their interests to reconcile. Now, obviously, there's the issue of the British public and how the British public want nothing to do with the Sussexes. I think it would be quite controversial if the king welcomed them with open arms and started to kind of integrate them into the fold and got them more involved in royal engagements. I highly doubt that will happen because I suspect it would be deeply unpopular. But also there is the issue of Prince William and Prince Harry's relationship, which is at the crux of this. Apparently there's no trust between the brothers. There's nothing that happens between them that's not briefed to the press, and we don't know who it's coming from. You know, Harry would say it's coming from his brother. William would say, well, you're the one that released the Netflix documentary and a book talking about your Todger. So it's probably more likely that it came from his end of things. And so it's a very complicated relationship, but one would hope that at least behind closed doors, they would be working towards healing that rift, at least for the sake of the children.
And the breakdown of the relationship between the Fab Four as they were known, that didn't exactly happen overnight. Look, it's been blamed, an allegation that it's been blamed on a breakdown in communication between Kate and Meghan. But is that really a fair observation?
I mean, it does look to be the case. I mean, we obviously heard allegations that apparently Catherine made Meghan cry during the preparation of her wedding, and Catherine wasn't very fond of Meghan for saying that she had baby brain when she was pregnant with her 3rd child. We'll never actually know the real story behind it, but I don't find it hard to believe. Again, you have to understand that the royal family is quite unique in the sense that it's quite traditional. There are obviously ranks. Catherine is going to be the future queen, so she obviously outranks Meghan. We don't know if that actually had a role in kind of the acrimony that's clearly witnessed in their relationship and how cold it is now. But we do know that being the same age, they should have probably had more in common and you know, been closer. They're both very intelligent, very beautiful, very articulate women and very powerful, you know, public figures. But for some reason, their relationship was broken down to the extent that even when, you know, during the Queen's funeral, when they did that walk around, they were on opposite ends of each other. They just really, it was clear that they didn't have a very warm relationship. And we know from royal correspondence that actually that walk around was a very difficult thing for Catherine, because clearly she didn't want to have to do that. We don't know if that's true, but these are the allegations we're hearing and we have no reason to doubt them. So I suspect it did likely come from a breakdown in communication between Meghan and Catherine, which is unfortunate. Now, I don't know who is to blame. I still suspect that it's just Meghan's unrealistic and probably detached expectations of what it would be like to be in the royal family, how to relate with people and all of that. And, you know, that probably likely played a role in the breakdown of the relationship between the pair.
And finally, one last thing. It's also alleged that William is trying to muscle his way into running the royal family. Now, the Prince and Princess have definitely taken on a greater share of the work, but that appears to be, from where I'm looking, part of the leaning and modernising strategy of the royal family. Do you think this Barb's a little bit cute?
I mean, I think it's completely ridiculous. He was obviously always going to be the future king. He doesn't have to muscle his way into something that is his birthright. But I also think you have to be reasonable and assuming that the reason why they've taken on more responsibilities is because they have fewer resources to draw upon. You know, one of the optimistic hopes of the Sussexes joining the fold was the fact that they were going to unburden senior members of the royal family by taking on more of this work. We're starting to see it with Meghan and Harry going to South Africa on their tour. But obviously that didn't come to fruition. And so, you know, the work has had to be spread out. The Edinburghs, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh have also had to take on a lot of work. They've been to Canada recently to have royal engagement. So I think it's more to do with the fact that there are genuinely just fewer people and fewer resources to draw upon, as opposed to, you know, William trying to muscle his way in. He is going to lead the royal family one day, that is without question. So he will obviously take a more leading role. But I don't think it's because he's greedy or power hungry or anything of the sort. I genuinely think it's just because that is the role that he was born into, and there are just fewer workers to carry out the work.